My name is Matt. I'm a staff writer here at the Schoolcraft Connection.
My name is Alex Hawthorne, and I am a staff writer here at the Schoolcraft Connection.
We went to Eloise Haunted Asylum and the Scream Machine haunted houses in Westland and Taylor. I haven't been to a haunted house since I was 6, and that was a somewhat traumatic experience, but I was excited to try it again, you know, as an older person now.
I have been to a haunted house about 2 years ago. Can't remember where, but I remember just having a good time, so I wanted to try this out.
I definitely, with all the hype, expected Eloise to be, like, up there, you know, very professionally done set design and makeup and stuff, and they lived up to the hype, I think. The Scream Machine, I didn't really have a lot of expectations going in. They lived up to the expectations I didn't have with all of their, the actors and the haunts.
I mean, I had really big expectations in general for, like, both of them. Like, at least, well, I had less for the Scream Machine, but for Eloise, because, oh, it's new, we had a celebrity who went over there.
Yeah.
It's, you know, the history I thought would boost it up more, but when I ultimately went there, while I did find it really good, I kind of was a little bit disappointed. Although I would, yeah, a little bit, but, like, I would absolutely, like, say it's an experience everyone should experience. But on the Scream Machine, on the other hand, because I had a little bit less than Eloise, I went in there and I felt that it was just really captivating and really enthralling, especially that just served almost to basically shock me.
Yeah.
A lot more.
Yeah, just with all the hype of Eloise, yeah, it kind of built up an expectation, and I feel like going into it with the Scream Machine, you know, with no expectations, it was blew you away a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I had the same experience.
Yeah.
I hadn't really considered going, like, until that night that, you know, this used to be a functioning asylum, and a lot of terrible things did happen there. So I was really interested to get their perspective, you know, because personally I have a little bit of experience with mental health stuff as well, and, you know, I'm very sensitive to it. I didn't think that what Eloise was doing was particularly offensive, but I definitely see the perspective of the protesters there, and, you know, I definitely support their cause, and, you know, they were very dedicated, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, I really agree with you on that. I feel that the protesters, I understood what they were doing, and I absolutely get that, but at the same time that we're trying to move away from that type of, even though it technically to a certain extent is kind of using mental health as a little bit of an exploit, really going inside and actually just seeing it, it felt almost as if that they weren't really trying to do that at the level the protesters really thought that they were trying to do.
Yeah.
So in a certain sense, I understand why they're doing it, I understand the purpose, but at the same time, that because of just the whole place trying to move away from more of that type of mental health, horrible mental institution, image, I find it that they could, that ultimately that if they just simply just went inside and just try it out, maybe they would come out with a little bit of a different perspective on that to a certain extent.
Yeah, I didn't feel that it was terribly using the image of mental health. In fact, if anything, you know, I felt that they were using almost the hospital itself. You know, the idea of a psychiatric facility is kind of scary. You know, I thought Eloise captured that pretty well without, like, making the actual, like, even the actors weren't, you know, as far as I remember, weren't, you know, particularly embodying stereotypes of people who are mentally ill. I think they were doing just sort of, you know, haunting, right?
Yeah.
But the setting of Eloise, you know, being in a psychiatric facility, you know, is sort of scary in and of itself. You know, even if there wasn't a haunted house in there, it is, you know, kind of a scary thing. I felt like they used it tastefully, you know, without being particularly offensive to people who, you know, today are in psychiatric facilities.
Yeah, 100% agree.
When you're standing in the line, you can really feel the sort of collective anxiety. You know, some people are really, like, they've got that kind of excitement going, that sort of pre-adrenaline, you know. And then other people, you know, like I know for myself, like I hadn't been to a haunted house in so long, and I had a bad reaction when I was a kid, and so coming in, I had some anxiety going in, and I could feel that with the other people in line and other people around. I think it's fun. You know, it's almost like standing outside of a concert and everybody's excited to go see their you know, the artist perform, right? There's that sort of general buzz in the air, and I really appreciated that aspect. And that like first scare too, like I found myself like, you know, ready to go, right? Ready to jump at the first scare, and I did, you know, I was like, I hadn't had an honest scream and I don't know how long, but you know, that first person that jumps around a corner, I was like, ah, you know, which is an experience I haven't had in a really long time, so it was really fun, actually.
Yeah. I mean, in general, for like both like the Scream Machine and just Eloise, like I felt like that because of more of the atmosphere just kind of being a little bit different because of Eloise just in general having, I feel, again, obviously that they were playing off of the aspect of it was a psychiatric ward, but they're also playing off more of a sci-fi aspect of the fact of that like too, trying to introduce stuff like more cosmic horror or like aliens or other entities that are like being experimented on over there, versus like the Scream Machine just being more based around like classical horror and stuff. So like really for both of that like type of atmosphere too, and really those screams, it just felt like that they both were different and really unique and playing off of what they really show best.
Yeah, I think the audience felt more or less the sort of same way that we did. I think it was very energizing for everybody to go through, and the people that we talked to afterward had that kind of like, you know, that glow about them, right? That sort of, they just went through something that, you know, that intense experience, right?
Yeah, the audience really, to me, just seemed really, well, when going inside, they seemed really hype. And just, even while just going through both haunted houses, it felt that the fact that you could hear audience members scream just from while walking through and just even from the outside kind of really show that like they were really into it.
Yeah. There was one part while we were interviewing the owner of the Scream Machine, and I had asked her a question and she couldn't hear me because somebody was screaming in the background. And then I also appreciated at Eloise, they had a lot of stuff going on for the visitors, right? So they had like bands playing to people waiting in line. You know, they had some actors kind of wandering around and stuff. And actually, same with the Scream Machine, they didn't have bands, but they had the Axeman, right? Their primary antagonist of this year. You know, greeting people and you know, waving the axe around and stuff and kind of threatening them. And that was really cool. You know, it feels very sort of collective, right?
I just kind of wish to a certain extent. I always did good on that aspect, I'll say, too, but like I feel like the Scream Machine just, with their Axeman, man, like they could have just shown them a little bit more in the place and made it more themed.
Yeah, I do agree with that, yeah. I wish I would have seen a little bit more of him.
Yeah.
So we spoke to a couple people coming out of Eloise. And then after that, we spoke to the operations manager. Yeah. And the owner of Eloise. And at the Scream Machine, we talked to, I think, just the owner. Oh, and we did an interview of somebody in line for one of the escape rooms they had at the Scream Machine. I did think it also was interesting when we talked to the owner of Eloise. Like, he has so many big plans for that area, which is really cool, I think, because, you know, I've lived in Westland for a while, and there's, you know, definitely a lot of culture and stuff around here, but I think it would be really cool to have, like he's talking about adding restaurants and, and escape rooms and a performance area there. And I think it would be really cool to have like, you know, kind of concentrated little area like that, you know, to bring people out to Westland too, because it is, you know, sort of a smaller part of Detroit, or Metro Detroit, I guess. I am excited to hear about what he plans to, or I guess to see more of what he plans to do with that space, because it is a really nice space too.
Well, I mean, like the thing is too, like I do appreciate for what he did, but I also am really, again, this is first year, so I mean, to a certain extent, he might be maybe just a little bit overhyping. Although I will say that for what he does plan, if assuming that does come to pass, I will be really excited to see what he has to do. Mm-hmm. But to be honest, I really was impressed by Scream Machine because they have a lot. Again, when we went there, that was my first time hearing about them ever. Mm. So to hear that they've been doing this for 20 years,
Yep. Yeah.
well, over 20 years, and just really having to more downsize, but still providing a great experience every single time for each of these years. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate just the humbleness and just really the attitude more from both owners.
Yeah.
But I really did. I like both, but I really did appreciate just how long and the amount of experience and knowledge the owner of the Scream Machine did have.
Yeah, and that knowledge and that appreciation for the craft really came out during the haunted house and the escape room. You could tell that the actors and everybody involved really had that kind of appreciation for it. They've been doing it for so long that it really translates into their performance and makes the overall experience that much more exciting. And I really appreciated that aspect as well.
Yeah.
A couple times in Eloise, they had prosthetics coming out of the walls that got you. And
For Scream Machine in specific, they had a lot of, versus compared to Eloise, while they did have environmental scares, I feel like even though I do absolutely love jump scares, I felt like some of the things that really got me more were obviously the environments that they created over in the Scream Machine, just in the little small place. Because even though Eloise is expansive and everything, it didn't almost make you feel like you were just caged up, like you're just in a certain area, because it's just so big and so expansive.
yeah,
So I would say really like probably the best scares out of, in general for both, to me, are just a lot of the environmental scares.
yeah. I would say Eloise definitely has going for it just an insane amount of production value. It is so professionally done. It's almost like walking through like a professional horror movie set, which I really appreciated. There's so much detail in it, and the sort of prosthetics and set decoration and things that they use were very, very realistic looking. There were several times where I wasn't sure if I was looking at a piece of the scenery or an actor in makeup. I would say on the flip side, though, that with less resources, the Scream Machine, I think, does a lot more. The actors were so much more animated and involved, I think, even though at Eloise they could touch you, whereas in the Scream Machine they couldn't. I think they did more with less, and I was really impressed with that.
In specific, for Eloise, I agree with you completely. Like, they have high production value, which really made the AV appeal to me even more. I just really like that type of design too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the Scream Machine?
The Scream Machine look kind of the same thing. Like, the only difference is that's just, again, the acting as well, because even though they had less, that just so good where it made me feel as if I was just in that environment. I felt more immersed from these actors more than I would say the props over there. But at Eloise, I felt more immersed from the props rather than the actors.
Yeah, exactly. And the Scream Machine too. There were like stunts.
Yeah.
There were a couple stunts that the actors played, and they played characters that you sort of got a little bit more invested in. There's not Citizen Kane or anything like that. But they played these sort of cartoony characters, I think, in a way that, when I say cartoony, I mean, cartoony for horror, right?
Yeah.
That works very well, and it's just over the top enough that is sort of, is immersive, I think, and I found that much more enjoyable at the Scream Machine.
Yeah.
But Eloise, definitely, I would say that production value is incredible. Even if you don't find it particularly scary, it's really nice just to kind of walk through and see this really professionally well done haunted house.
I can't wait to see what they do next year with even a higher value.
We bought VIP tickets for each one, and so we got to skip the lines, which was very nice. Although it might have been cool to actually stand in the regular person line too, just to get more of that sort of collective fear, mounting, right? But absolutely worth the price of admission for either one, or both. And we also did they had escape rooms at the end of the Scream Machine, and we paid a little extra to do that as well. And you know, to anybody thinking about going to a haunted house for Halloween this year, I would totally recommend that added price. I think it's about $10 for 2 tickets. I would like to see what the Scream Machine does next year. I could see myself going every year to see how it gets a little different. And you know, now that I know a little bit more about the you know, the company that runs it, the crew and the actors, and the owner, who's very cool and talked with us. I would love to see what they can do next year, and I could see it becoming a yearly thing for me. Eloise, I would absolutely go again, but I would have to see, you know, what they do, right? Because it in my mind right now, it seems like it would be a little hard to top this year without, you know, almost ruining it. But I think it's possible, so I would definitely, you know, try it again and you know, see what they can do.
I'd go to, honestly, I'd just say I'd go to both, because like they both provide different experiences, and that thinking about what they have to offer, again, especially the Scream Machine for just different themes every year, thinking about that regard makes me want to go there more. But at the same time, for Eloise, I'd want to go there more because, again, you know, there's some issues, but the whole thing was just fantastic and amazing, and it's really good for especially a first year. So watching them go into, like, let's say their sophomore year or like next year, like that would be something I'd also want to go to. So it'd be hard to decide for one specific one of which one I would want to go to more, because they both provide something so different.